Welcome back to Napalm and OJ, where I'll be discussing the Resident Evil films today. But only the live-action ones, the Paul W.S. Anderson movies, the Mila Jovovich movies, and Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City from 2021. So it'll be 7 movies total that I'll be talking about here today. And instead of ranking them from worst to best and talking about them out of order, I wanted to just go through sort of why I'm doing this and also my memories from the movies and then talk about them chronologically and then rank them at the very end. Also, spoiler warning for all of the Resident Evil movies because I'm not going to hold back. I'm just going to freely talk about these. So if there's some of them you've never seen and you don't want them spoiled, then watch up until then and tune out after that. And the main reason I'm doing this is because I feel like these movies are shit on a lot, and some of them rightfully so, but some of them, and I would say close to most of them, have a lot, and I mean a lot, of entertainment value. They made a huge impact on me as a child growing up, and I don't think they deserve all the hate that they get for the most part. And I also think a lot of the hate towards this franchise is coming from people that grew up and love the games, and the movies are almost nothing like the video game series. But I should say, I'm coming at this video as a guy who does not have very much experience at all with the video game franchise Resident Evil. I am mostly coming from a guy who grew up with the movies, who enjoyed them, and we'll get to some of the bad ones, don't worry. But I have little to no knowledge of the video game characters, storylines, etc. So this is not going to be talking about any of that, comparing any of that. I feel like it's important for me to just put that out there up front so you know where I'm personally coming from. I also, like all my videos, I don't have a script. I'm just going off the dome for this, so it might be a sporadic mess, but that's just sort of how things are over here. So you either, I don't know, stick with me or you don't, whatever. But there's also timestamps down below if you just want to skip to the ranking video and not hear all the other stuff I have to say about the series. So I was about 9 when the original Resident Evil movie was released in 2002, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, starring Mila, I think that's how you say it, Mila Jovovich. And I can't remember exactly when I saw this for the first time, but the image of Alice in the mansion, waking up in the shower, having amnesia, and then the Umbrella military people breaking through the windows is an image and a scene that sticks with me and has so throughout my entire life. And even though I can't remember when I watched the movie for the first time in completion, I'm pretty sure I saw at least that opening scene on TV or somewhere. Maybe it was at a friend's house, probably a lot earlier than I should have, but holy shit, that opening scene still stands up. Well, actually, technically, I don't think the mansion scene's even the opening. I think the opening is in the office when the shit's going down, right? Yeah. But anyway, you know what I mean when I say the opening mansion scene. Just the mood, the atmosphere, the mystery to everything, the music. Holy shit, the music. Again, not knowing anything about the games, I'm assuming they made the music for the movies from scratch. I don't know. Maybe they took it from the games. I'm not exactly sure. Let me know in the comments. But the score, the main Umbrella theme or whatever you want to call it, is incredible. I still listen to that today and get goosebumps. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I saw, again, that first scene at such an early age, but something about the music just, I don't know, it pumps me up, you know? Not to mention all the early 2000s death metal and all of that stuff that is also throughout this movie. Hell, that's probably why I'm still really into Slipknot, to be honest. I don't think I even knew what the hell Slipknot was when I was watching this, but they're in there. And I honestly don't know who could watch this first movie and not enjoy it on some level, you know? Like, at least some of the action. Like, the pacing is really great. It never lets up. We're constantly being thrown action scenes, and pretty cool and good action scenes for the early 2000s, in my opinion, which is something that only improves throughout the later entries in the franchise. The laser grid sequence is so iconic. I don't think anyone could forget about that. I mean, even the film series themselves reference it at least 2 more times throughout the series. Some of the CGI doesn't exactly hold up, but it's not one of those situations where it really ruins a movie. And if you know me and you've been watching my movie reviews and stuff for a while, then you know I am a huge supporter of practical effects. I hate CGI. I think if you can go practical as a filmmaker, you should. But there was still enough practical in this movie for me to enjoy it. And again, the CGI doesn't take me out completely. It's nothing that I'm over here gonna like shit on or anything. But I just don't know how anyone could actually not enjoy Mila Jovovich, sexy as hell, jumping around in that red dress, kicking zombie dogs' asses, kicking zombies' asses. Yeah, there's a little bit of a twist at the end that you could say is predictable, but come on. I feel like if you wanted to show an alien who has no experience on Earth or our culture what an early 2000s movie looks like style-wise, this is the perfect example of what to showcase. Not to mention Michelle Rodriguez is in there kicking ass as well. They go down into Umbrella, the hive, and they've got to get the antidote or the cure, and they got to shut down the AI lady, queen, whatever, Red Queen, who is killing everybody who got stuck down there, even though that's kind of her protocol. Whatever, I don't know. It's not as complicated as I made it sound, but it does get more complicated later, which I'll obviously touch on. But next up, we've got Resident Evil Apocalypse, the second film in the franchise that came out in 2004, this time directed by Alexander Witt, still written by Paul W.S. Anderson though. And Alexander Witt worked on No Time to Die, the James Bond movie, and The Bourne Identity. This is one of the movies that I don't think I ever even saw on TV, or if I did, I only saw like clips here and there, but watching this felt like it was for the first time. And holy shit, I think this might be the perfect Halloween watch movie. Now listen, hear me out, okay? It takes place in the city with the zombie infection going on. The Umbrella Corporation has quarantined the city to keep the infected inside, but the daughter of the scientist who created the virus and knows about the cure, his daughter gets stuck inside, so Alice and some other people have to go in there, and they gotta save the daughter with Mike Epps.
GTA motherfucker! Oh, yeah! 10 points!
I forgot to mention he is in this, and he's in the next installment as well. We get Jill Valentine, who apparently is from the games, which is cool. We get a big scene that is in a creepy-ass, like, Catholic church sort of thing. Cathedral, I don't know what exactly you call it. It mostly takes place at nighttime after kind of the opening little bit. We get some graveyard scenes, some undead people, zombies coming up from the ground. We get a big, massive, evil cyborg zombie with a rocket launcher. Like, it is cheesy, over the top, crazy, but so much fun. Then we go to the school where they have to get the little daughter, and there is sort of like the Jurassic Park scene from the kitchen, except with zombies instead of dinosaurs walking around, where they got to stay like quiet and stuff. Or no, it's not even zombies, it's zombie dogs. Yeah, that's what it is. Very creepy, very ominous, very spooky, and I feel like this whole movie kind of has a lot of spooky Halloween vibes that would be great to put on during a Halloween party. Obviously, there's a lot of better options for movies to put on during a Halloween party, but I'm just saying, this might be a yearly watch for me, at least this coming Halloween. It also picks up right where the last one left off, where Alice gets out of the hospital, and then she later meets up with the ragtag group of people. Again, Mike Epps for some reason is in there, but he's kind of funny. It's also our introduction to that Carlos guy. Not sure if he's in the games or not. I think he is, but not positive. But they got to get the little girl, get her out before Umbrella nukes the entire town to just wipe everybody out and kill all the zombies and get rid of the infection entirely. Did I mention that the action is just as over the top as the other ones? In a lot of ways, they improved on the action from the first one as well by adding more action scenes, adding more zombies. Everything is just stepped up to like another level. Now, at the end of this movie, we find out that Alice had actually been cloned as sort of like an experiment within Umbrella by this, crazy doctor guy, Dr. Isaacs, I think his name is. She has a fight with the doctors inside, kicks some ass, and escapes, and her friends get in the car with her and drive off. But we're not sure if she is the real Alice or if she is a clone, which comes into play later, even though ultimately it gets retconned and it doesn't really matter either way. I don't know. And that's where we get Resident Evil 3 Extinction, picking up sort of where the last one left off, except Alice is not with the group of friends. We later find out that she didn't want to endanger the rest of the party by Umbrella searching for her, since she's basically an escaped clone at this point, even though she's not a clone. I don't know. It's so confusing. She also has telekinesis powers, or whatever it's called, where she can lift stuff off the ground. She uses it twice and then basically never again. Not sure where they were going with that. I don't know. But I feel like it would have downgraded this movie, actually, Extinction, if she had just been using her like Jedi Force powers the entire movie to kick everybody's ass. It would have taken a lot of the excitement out of the ass kicking scenes. But we do become aware that she does have powers. We're also in the desert. I should have said that earlier. Alice does meet back up with the group and some new people. Claire. Jill's not there for some reason, I think. Yeah, wasn't she? Yeah, she's missing from Extinction, right? Let me look this up. I don't know. A lot of the small details from movie to movie kind of get lost on me, but I feel like these first three especially do a very great job of establishing their own little world, their own little setting. And this actually goes to the fourth one as well, which I'll get to, but they all feel very somewhat contained in their own environment, switching up the environment each time, which is cool. Again, I'm glad they didn't go too far with Alice having these like force powers and stuff. I feel like that would have just completely ruined pretty much the entire series and the whole movie if they had gone overboard board with that. So anyway, they kept that to a minimum, which was nice, but still a lot of ass kicking. She does use her force powers when they're being attacked by crows. To infected crows, by the way, really cool scene. She uses her force powers to basically take a flamethrower flame and like disperse it and kill all the birds or something. I don't know. There's a lot of I don't really know, but I dig it because it's fucking cool shit in these movies. Eventually it becomes less cool and more just like what the fuck, but so far we're still going strong. I really love Extinction. This is the movie, the first movie of the series that I saw at the movie theater with a couple friends. This is the one that I remember trailers playing for all the time. You know, you've got that big wide helicopter shot of a fenced-in square with zombies trying to get in, and that's where like this old house is that has like a trap door thing where this table splits apart and it goes down an elevator into the Umbrella facilities, which is really cool. It's also where they're discarding all the Alice clones outside of that facility within the gates. I honestly don't feel like they do enough with the clones throughout any of these movies until they really try to force it down our throats in the last one, but we'll get to that. So anyway, Alice finds a notebook in an abandoned gas station or something that somehow she knows or believes to be true, that there is a sanctuary. Well, actually, they're not sure. No one's sure, which is kind of the point, is that they have to decide, do they want to go to Alaska where the sanctuary might be, where this like radio signal has been broadcasting from, and there might not be infected there. They decide, well, it's better than just traveling around and killing zombies and hoping we don't die. So the whole caravan, after most of them die, and a lot of extras die, who were never really introduced to. You know, there were like 5 kids coming up to get meals and during one scene, and we never see any of them again. So I guess they all died. I don't know. Again, a lot of I don't know. But they go to Las Vegas where more of them die, and the zombies are faster, and there's another strain of zombie shit that makes them faster. I don't really know. I don't know. It's fun to watch, though. So eventually the head scientist guy, he gets bit by a zombie because Alice fights him, and I don't know, just some shit goes down and he gets bit. He escapes in a helicopter, but he's morphing into a zombie, ends up turning into a super zombie because he overdoses essentially on the cure vaccine thing. I don't really know. It's never really explained, like, does the cure exist? In what capacity does it exist? They talk about it a lot, but they never really explain or go into detail about it. Anyway, most of the survivors escape in a helicopter to go to Alaska, that somehow Claire knows how to drive a helicopter. I don't know. I guess we're not supposed to worry about that, but Alice stays behind to go kick the scientist guy's ass and destroy everything down there, I guess. So she goes to do that, and everyone flies away towards Alaska. So then we have the 4th movie in the Resident Evil live-action franchise, which is Resident Evil Afterlife, which has Paul W.S. Anderson coming back to direct. He wrote all of them, but he's finally coming back since the first one to come direct again. I also forgot to mention at the end of the last one, Extinction, after Alice defeats the scientist guy, she discovers all the clones that are down there. So this next one starts out with her and several of her clones going and kicking ass in Umbrella, and it's pretty cool. And that's one thing that I forgot to kind of mention about this whole movie franchise, is they do a great job of starting almost every one of the movies out with a big badass fight scene and ending it with a big badass fight scene, usually with some sort of boss type character villain, which is very like video game-esque. I don't know if they're copying or taking any of this from the video games directly, but it has a nice formula, a nice rhythm to it to get you hooked in at the beginning. You get to leave with a lot of action, and each one of these movies is around an hour and a half, which is also very nice and digestible. So Alice, with her clones, kicks a lot of ass in the beginning of this movie. Very, very fun to watch. Just the opening scene alone is incredible. Then she takes an airplane to Alaska, to Arcadia, the city that's supposed to be the refuge city, to find Claire and whoever else survived. She finds the helicopter, finds Claire. Claire has this device from Umbrella that is like a mind control thing, and she is able to get it off of her and save her, but she has amnesia now, can't remember anything. They get in the plane, fly away, and then they find like a help us sign written in like gravel on the top of this prison complex in, I think it's LA, right? I believe it's supposed to be LA. They crash land the airplane on the roof, and then we get to meet a bunch of other characters that have been surviving out of the prison for a while, and it's a really another really fun movie, in my opinion. Another, like, very different setting from the rest. Very Romero, Dawn of the Dead-esque, I've heard people compare it to. I like all the characters. I like how it sets them up, you know, and all of that. We got the guy from Prison Break in there, who basically is playing we don't know if he's a prisoner or not. That's a whole nother story that I'm not going to get into. But the zombies start getting in. We've got this one zombie with a huge-ass axe thing, banging it on the gate, breaking in, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of really cool shit happens, and I really enjoyed it. But they realize that Arcadia is not a city in Alaska. I mean, it is, but the radio signal that they thought was coming from Alaska is actually coming from Arcadia, the ship that's at the harbor right outside, like within viewing distance of this prison. So initially their plan is to, you know, get back in the airplane that they crash landed and get it working and fly over there. At least two of them can fit. That doesn't really end up happening. They end up just sort of, how do they do it? I can't remember exactly. But they make it to the ship. They find out the radio signal was false, trying to lure them there so that Umbrella and Wesker, I haven't even mentioned Wesker, but he's this like evil dude who I think runs Umbrella, but they're kind of wishy-washy on that later. But he's sort of like the evil villain with sunglasses. They stole a lot of shit in these movies out of the Matrix, but hey, that's all right by me because they made really cool movies, so I don't really care. So there's a really cool Matrix-esque scene between Alice and Wesker and these mutant dogs in this underground belly of this ship that is really cool and really fun. This is another one of those scenes that I remember seeing this, but I don't know, or I didn't have any context for it. I don't know if I ever watched this fourth movie all the way through either. I think I just caught bits of it here and there on TV. But anyway, they have a lot of survivors that they've been experimenting on within the ship. So Alice defeats Wesker, they free all these people, and they're all on the top of the ship now. And this movie ends with Umbrella, like they've got all these choppers and these airplane things that are like flying in, and presumably they're gonna shoot missiles and kill everybody on the ship. Movie's over. So the next one, what the fuck's the next one called? Shit, Retribution. I'm like trying to wipe this movie from my memory. So we move on to Resident Evil Retribution that picks up right where that left off. Umbrella does, in fact, shoot missiles and kill most of the people on that ship. So very sad, you know. We think Claire died, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't. She comes back. And Alice gets captured by the Umbrella, and she's basically being tortured. And that's when Ada Wong from the video game series apparently comes in and saves her by shutting down the Umbrella computers. And this whole movie is basically just like an action and stunt showcase without most of the action actually being very badass or cool at all. I will admit the best scene is this early fight scene close to the beginning of the movie that is really cool. It takes place like in Japan. But Umbrella has these sort of simulation pod things where it's like you're basically in this huge dome and it replicates like Moscow or Japan or whatever. It doesn't really make sense why they have to work through the worlds to get out, but they're trying to get out of the facility for the whole movie. And also Wesker, who's been the big bad guy up until now, is somehow a good guy now and trying to help them get out because he doesn't like what the AI software, which is portrayed by a little kid, he doesn't like what they're doing now. So all of a sudden he's a good guy, but he's really not. I don't know. It's really fucking confusing. This is where the whole franchise kind of loses me because they also have clones of a lot of the previous characters like Michelle Rodriguez and the girl who played Jill Valentine in the second one, but they don't really do anything cool with them. They're just basically evil and trying to stop Alice from escaping, except one of the Michelle Rodriguez's isn't bad. I don't know. It doesn't really make any fucking sense. Again, the action, there's like this one chase scene in Moscow that is like the lamest car chase scene I've ever seen. It's basically just like they're driving around like, nothing cool happens. There's also a team that I think most of the characters are from the video game, so there's like a big homage there, but coming down sent by Wesker to help rescue Alice for some reason. That doesn't really make any sense to me. I'm not really sure, but most of them die by the end. Yeah, very sad. But Jill is not a clone. She's actually Jill, but she's being mind controlled with this thing on her chest that Alice is able to remove by the end to turn her back to normal. So Alice, Jill, and some of the remaining people, they escape and go to Washington, D.C., where Wesker is like running things as like one of the last survivors or whatever. I don't really know. They're at the White House that's like half destroyed, and there's a big zoom out of all these like zombies trying to get into the White House or whatever. So we assume that the final chapter, the last movie in this franchise until they reboot it later, is going to be a big, massive fight from the beginning with all these characters, or at least a few of them that we kind of grew to like a little bit, even though I don't really like most of them from the previous movie. But that's when we get into the Resident Evil, the final chapter, which starts off with a big chunk missing because Alice is all of a sudden alone in DC at the White House. Wesker's not there, Jill's not there. There's no zombie. Well, there are zombies, but they're these flying zombies. But the big, massive crowd of zombies is no longer there. So I don't know exactly like what the missing piece is there. They never give us that missing piece. And from there, this movie, the first like 30 minutes is kind of like, sort of like I've heard people compare it to like Mad Max, like the early Mad Max movies. I haven't seen those, so I guess you could say that. I thought the first like 30 minutes was kind of cool. Just Alice fighting people and zombies and umbrella motorcycle people. And then the scientist guy, somehow it's either a clone or the clone was the one killed. So that guy's still alive, but he's like an ultra Christian now in some sort of armored vehicle with Umbrella. And Alice gets captured by them and then fights her way out and then blah, blah, blah. And then she meets up with some new people that they don't really give you enough background on like the previous movie to care about. And it's basically just like a retread of the fucking Afterlife movie from the prison where she meets a bunch of people that are stuck in this like, you know, office building tower thing that they have like gates around. Oh, it's just so exhausting, man. They got these two like dickhead, like alpha male guys who are constantly arguing with each other and blah, 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 because they both want to be the leader. And it's just a bunch of cliche shit, a bunch of shit that's not very cool. They try to retcon a bunch of the cloning shit and cure shit from the previous movies. It's very stupid. And most of these characters die really fast and you don't even get to know them. You don't really care about any of them. And it just brings up even more questions as to like, who the fuck's the actual bad guy? Is it Wesker? Is it the scientist guy? What the fuck's going on within Umbrella? Who's running the show? What is up with the cure? How come Alice like never uses her little telekinesis powers again? And then they have this big fucking twist at the end that's like, oh, Alice was a clone the whole time. Well, it's like, no shit, because didn't like at the end of 2, didn't we know she was a clone now? Like, that's what I thought. Maybe I wasn't supposed to interpret it that moment as that, or maybe they're just retconning everything, but it doesn't make any fucking sense. They try to add a bunch of other shit about the creator's daughter and blah 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 that just, no, I don't know, none of it makes any fucking sense. The action's okay, but it's nothing compared to the other ones. Yeah, I didn't really like this at all. And she finds the cure, releases it so that it's airborne now. Somehow this is like an airborne cure now. I don't know how the fuck that happened or what, but it seems like every movie there's a new version of the cure, but it's in a secure location, so they gotta go get it. I don't fucking know. Anyway, she has to continue fighting zombies until the cure can like reach the entire world, because it'll take a while for it to spread through the wind, I guess. So the final scene is Alice just riding away. She ditches Claire, who's still alive for some reason. I don't know why they didn't just stay teamed up, but she's riding alone on a motorcycle into the fucking city to kick more fucking zombie ass, I guess. Even though this is the final chapter, so we'll never see her in this role again, probably. And yeah, that's it. The end. Until 2021 with Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which is more like the video games from what I've been told. But again, I don't know anything about the video game storylines. But this is like totally separate from all those movies. Totally different actors and everything. Totally different character dynamics and all that. And this movie was just a pile of shit.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
This movie did nothing for me. I saw this when it came out initially. It did nothing for me then. Rewatching it now, I almost fell asleep several times. I actually did fall asleep once and had to like rewind and I don't even know what to say about this movie, because it's just like almost nothing really does happen. It's just like there's a bad guy, scientist, who also runs an orphanage, who's experimenting on the kids, sort of, to make monster people. He turns into a big monster person at the end. The dynamic between the main girl and her brother, who she is estranged from and hasn't talked to in 5 years, is really odd. And they're barely in the movie together anyway, because they immediately like separate, go their separate ways. The dynamic between all of the cops, or whatever whatever the fuck they're supposed to be is really weird. Only one of them, Leon, is wearing an actual uniform. The rest are just wearing whatever the fuck they want, I guess. I don't really understand how all that works. But hey, whatever. Fucked up police station with no dress code. I guess that's fine. I don't really know how that works. But the rest of the movie's just fucking, like, I don't know, stupid and pointless. I had a really hard time deciding, once I get into my worst to the best, ranking these movies. It was really hard for me to figure out which one should be at the very bottom. But I think I've talked about the live action movies enough. Apparently Zach Cregger's making a new one right now that's going to have nothing to do with any of the previous iterations. So I don't know. That'll be interesting, even though I have problems with Barbarian and Weapons and was never totally sold on those movies like everybody else. But hey, we'll see what he can do. But anyway, on to my ranking. So coming in at number 7 of worst of the Resident Evil live action movies, in my opinion, this is all just my opinion obviously, is Resident Evil, the final chapter, the 6th movie in the Mia Jovovich, Paul W.S. Anderson franchise. As I just mentioned, this movie just tries to retcon so much shit. The action is okay at times, but some of it's in the dark and you can't even see what the hell's going on. The editing's very choppy. The storyline is just fucking garbage. I don't like this movie. So moving on to number 6, and this was a tough decision, but at number 6, I put Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. This movie just gave me nothing. Even the fight scenes in the mansion weren't really that great, in my opinion. Nothing compared to what we get in the other movies, so that's where I had to put this one. Coming in at number 5, I have Resident Evil Retribution, the 5th movie in the Mia Jovovich franchise. Again, this is the one where they're in different environments in these domes underground the whole movie. The action wasn't very good at all. I don't know how they went wrong there, but none of it like impressed me. It was actually getting very boring. The clones making characters from the previous ones come back, but they're evil now, was kind of stupid. And Wesker, all of a sudden, he's a good guy. It didn't make sense to me, and this movie is one that I'm never going to revisit again, as well as the other two I just mentioned. Never probably going to watch these again. Coming in at number 4, I have Resident Evil Afterlife, which is the one where they're in the prison, and I think it's pretty fun, pretty cool. There's nothing to really complain about. This is a movie that I could definitely see myself rewatching, and from here on, I do plan on rewatching these from time to time. It's a fun movie. You got a big boss guy with an axe. You got likable characters for the most part that you kind of give a shit about, and the final scene against Wesker and those dogs is very, very memorable. One of the more memorable scenes out of the entire franchise, in my opinion. So then coming in at number 3 is the 3rd Resident Evil movie, Resident Evil Extinction. I really like this movie. I think it's really fun when they go to Vegas. I think it's fun watching Alice explore the gas station stuff alone. And then I forgot to even mention that scene where she gets sort of captured by these hillbilly fucking white trash people and has to fight them and all that crap. It's really fun. The whole movie is very enjoyable for me. It's one of those kind of like road trip sort of movies in the desert that has a lot of really cool action scenes. So moving on, for number 2 on my list is actually Resident Evil 1. This is where my list probably differs a lot from other lists. I don't know. I haven't really looked at anyone else's list to know, but I know most people regard the first film as absolutely hands down the best, but we'll get there to what I think is the best, even though you can narrow it down and it's obvious at this point. But the first Resident Evil is such a fun, badass movie. I love it. I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack is definitely underutilized in most of the movies, but definitely not here in the first one. So my number 1 Resident Evil live action movie is Resident Evil Apocalypse, the 2nd Resident Evil movie, which again, I think it's a great movie to watch on Halloween. I'm going to rewatch it on Halloween. I'm probably going to rewatch it this week because I love it so much. All the action, the explosions, the zombies, the scenes in the church, the scenes in the school, all being at night and all of that shit. It's so much fun. I love this movie. You got the big bad zombie guy with the rocket launcher and shit. You got that STARS team that I didn't even touch on. I don't know what they're supposed to be, like super cops, bounty hunters or some shit. I don't know. This is my favorite. I love this movie, and I beg to differ with anyone who argues otherwise, but that's my ranking. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. It was a lot of just me rambling about plot points and blah, 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 going movie to movie, but I really enjoy this franchise a lot, and I definitely think the first 4 movies are worth your time, worth revisiting if you've already seen them and it's been a while. I think this franchise has a lot to offer. Just maybe don't go past the 4th one. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys for watching this. Let me know what your favorite Resident Evil movie or game even is down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.